Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and we are back at my test pad at Electrical Island. This is where I did a series on logic gates recently, and all these little partial structures are my little demonstrators for the logic gates. The point of the series was to show very simple installations for logic gates, things that you could do with just one or two gates, and each video gave 2 to 3 examples of things that you could do with logic gates, so I hope that you will check that out. But for today, we're going to take a look at pressure plates. Now, this is in large part because of a comment that a viewer named Shell left on one of my videos, and they asked if pressure plates could be used as part of settlement defense. And the last video that I did that to the best of my ability. And unfortunately, I felt like I spent a lot of that time in that video talking about what pressure plates are not good for. They have a small detection radius, and they can only be used to detect anything. In other words, they can't be programmed to detect just friendlies or just enemies the way that a tripwire switch can. And I thought that I would come back and give some good applications for pressure plates in this video. Some things that we can do, and rather than concentrating on things that we can't do with pressure plates. So the other video I did show a trap setup, and if you're interested in that, take a look at that. But today we're just going to show some very simple applications for pressure plates. Now, one of the things that pressure plates are really good at is they can be activated while you're in the build mode. And if you're like me and run a lot of mods, it can take a painfully long time to get in and out of the build mode. And what that means is that anything that we can use without exiting build mode is pretty nice. So what I'm doing is I'm wiring this pressure plate up to this decontamination arch here. And the reason I like to have my decon arch only activate in build mode and only activate temporarily is the noise I find to be irritating, and the extra power drain on my settlement. If I've got a grid that doesn't have a lot of excess power, I don't like to have that going all the time if it's not necessary. And finally, the mist is really a killer on your frame rates. So you probably noticed that I hit this switch right here, and that's because this decon arch spawns with the switch in the off position. So what we've got here is we've got power coming here to our pressure plate, and if we step on the pressure plate, like right now, nothing happens, right? Because that decon arch spawned in the off position. So to make this work, you do have to get out of the build mode one time and hit that button. But now what we've got is we've got a situation where we can decontaminate ourselves inside the build mode. And through the magic of editing, that was a quick transition for you. For me, that was a lot of twiddling my thumbs. But yeah, now when I step on this pressure plate, I get decontaminated, and I didn't even have to leave the build mode. It's really nice if there is a rad storm, for example, coming in, and I've taken a bunch of radiation damage, and I don't want to have to get out of the build mode to take care of it. I also tend to build when I'm nearly dead from radiation to maximize my intelligence, and I'll maybe do a tutorial on what's up with that at some point. But yeah, sometimes rad storms can actually be deadly when I am working with my my rad meter so high. Now, another application that is nice for being able to do stuff without leaving build mode is opening these power doors. And you notice I kind of set this off to the side. I'm not going to try and make this a very pretty installation. I just want to show you how it's done. And there's a number of people who have done this in the past, but it is certainly one of kind of the quote-unquote standard applications for pressure plates. So I thought I would show it off here. So we just get some power going to this pressure plate, and oops, that is not what I wanted. That went straight to the door. We go to the pressure plate. Here, we're gonna go from the pressure plate to the conduit, and then from the pressure plate to the door. Now whenever you step on that pressure plate, the door opens. Now the other thing is that we need to get power on the other side. So let me go ahead and wire glitch and make that happen. And we want to wire these pressure plates individually to our source power so that we don't want to chain them together, because if we did, you would have to have both of them depressed for the door to open. So now we can just step on those pressure plates, and the door will open and shut automatically. And I'm hoping that I'll actually encounter the glitch here. Not going to happen this time. Sometimes these pressure plates stick, and that'll get important here in a minute. Now another thing that we can do, another nice thing to be able to do without leaving the build mode, would be able to turn on some lights. So let me go ahead and get a street light here, and let's say we're building and we've been building all day and it's starting to get nighttime, and we want to turn on some lights so we can just keep on working. Nasty Bones 3D often jokes that quote-unquote I build at night, which of course it irritates a lot of YouTube viewers, since it's hard to see the game when you're at night. So we've got this pressure plate set up, and when we step on it, the light turns on, and when we step off of the pressure plate, the light turns off. Well, that's no good. We don't want to have to be just standing on our pressure plate to have that light on. See, the pressure plates are what's known as a momentary switch, but we can turn them into an on-off switch if we're just a little bit clever. So I'm going to take this insulated power counter and set it down here, and what this does is I've set this power counter to cycle at 1, so basically it just alternates between on and off. The next thing I'm going to get is I'm going to get this not and logic gate, and what that says, you can see it on screen there, transmits power unless all inputs have power. And at first it's a little hard to wrap your head around, but once we kind of get all this set up, it will be hopefully easy to understand. So I'm going to hook that power pylon to the not and I'm going to hook this pressure plate to the not and. And right now there's power coming off of it, and you can see my pylon just incremented to 1, turned off. And what's going on here? So we've got two inputs, and one of them's hot, one of them's low, and the output is hot. As soon as I step on this pressure plate, what we'll see is, there, now that both of the inputs are hot, the output is low. Not and. Transmits power unless all inputs have power. And now that all inputs have power, it's not going to transmit power. And when I step off of the pressure plate, you can see that the power counter increments and the light turns on. So we have now turned this pressure plate from a momentary switch into a toggle switch, and we changed the status of our output from this pressure plate every time we step on it. And we can do that with any momentary switch in the game. Hoop switches immediately spring to mind because I recently upgraded my little player home at Fairline Hills with a hoop switch, and I will show that off in another video. Now there's another application that we can use pressure plates for when we have a settlement that doesn't have a lot of excess power. Now, when we have terminals, for example, we only need those terminals to be active and functional when we're actually standing it right in front of it and ready to use it. We could put a wall switch on next to the terminal just to turn the terminal on and off. And in fact, I did show that kind of briefly in the last video on pressure plates. I had a switch on the side of my terminal at Hangman's Alley. But we don't need this terminal to constantly be draining power from the settlement power grid unless we're actually using it. So I've got it hooked up to this pressure plate, and when I'm not standing on the plate and there's no power to the terminal, you can't do anything with it. But as soon as I stand on the pressure plate, the terminal gets power and it is, in fact, ready to use. So it's just another little trick that we can use to help manage power in our settlements. Now, the last thing that I want to show here is something that I have seen a number of different YouTubers do, and I wish I could remember the first place that I saw it so that I could give proper credit. But we're going to put a little Nacho twist on it. See, if you're not using mods, or if you're not using the clear weather mod, or you're not using a mod that allows you to fix your weather however you like, the only other thing you can do is use the weather change shells from, I believe it was Wasteland Workshop, and the mortars. And what I've seen a number of people do is take a pressure plate and put it on the ground, and go get one of the mortars, these launchers, and set that down, and now we can fix our weather without even leaving the build mode. So if rad storm rolls in, or even if it's just raining and we don't like it, we can just stomp on the pressure plate and, oh, yeah, I do have to actually exit the build mode and load the mortar. Now the thing about these fireworks, they're made in the chemistry station under fireworks, and the components that go into them are fairly rare, kind of valuable. And if it's early in your game and you don't have a lot of that stuff, you want to be real sure that you only launch one mortar at a time. Here's the problem that people run into sometimes is they stand on this pressure plate maybe just a little bit too long and step off, and oh no, we've actually just launched 3 of those shells. Another thing that can happen is, I'm actually a little disappointed it hasn't happened in this video. These pressure plates can stick, and they will stick down, and even when you step off of them, they will act as if there's something still standing on them. So there's an easy way that we can guarantee that we only launch one shell at a time. Haven't seen other people do this. There's probably other people that figured this out, but I wanted to show this off anyways. See, it's so simple that it's actually staring us right in the face. We're looking at the solution right now. We can take a delayed off switch and program it to 1 second and hook it up in between the pressure plate and the firework mortar, and guarantee that we only launch one shell at a time. So it's just this simple: hook the pressure plate to the delayed off switch, and delayed off gets hooked to the mortar, and that is all there is to it. When I stand on this pressure plate, it doesn't matter how long I stand on this pressure plate, only one shell gets launched. And if the pressure plate happens to stick, again, only a single shell gets launched. Let's see, how long is this video so far? Still fairly short, so I'm actually going to go and do something here that is just a little bit different, but still related to these mortars and weather change shells. I'm going to go ahead and leave this delayed off switch out, and I'm just going to grab a wall so that we've got something to build off of. Now this part is going to require mods, and I have done everything up till now vanilla because I wasn't sure if Shell was using mods or not. It wasn't actually until moments before I started recording this video that I realized that Shell has a YouTube channel. So I have not had time or an opportunity to go check out their content, but Shell has a YouTube channel, so go check it out and see what kind of content they've got for us, and hopefully we will enjoy that and give them a shot. So I've got power on this conduit that I'm just going to use as an input, and I am going to turn this mortar into an automated mortar so that I don't even have to bother coming over here and stepping on a pressure plate. See, with the electronics mod, we've got bad weather detector and we've got good weather detector. We don't want to use that one right now. We've got a rad weather detector and we've got a rain detector. And we could customize this, for example, if we wanted to save those valuable weather change shells and only activate the mortar when there's a rad storm or something. We could totally do that by just installing the radiation weather detector. So what I've got now is I've got power on each of those sensors, and I'm going to hook all of these sensors to this delayed off switch. And this is just because sometimes those sensors take longer than a couple seconds to activate, and we again only want to launch a single weather change shell. So this is just how simple it is. It's just a conduit to each one of these sensors, and then a delayed off switch and our mortar. And we'll just kind of turn that around like that. And there we go. Let's summon a rad storm and watch how this works. So we'll just go over here to some weather control. Of course, I only use these cheat mods for YouTube videos just because, I mean, I wouldn't want to have to stand around and just wait for a rad storm to happen to occur to be able to record this. So anyways, yeah, rad storm comes in, and you can see that the sensors activate, and we launched a weather change shell, and automatically our rad storm clears. Problem solved. So there you go. There are several applications where I feel like pressure plates kind of shine as things that we can use to only use power when we have to, try and help save our frame rates with this decon arch, or otherwise do things without exiting the build mode. We added at the very end a little contraption here, that of the electronics mod, to automatically fix our weather for us. So there you go. Shell, I hope you enjoyed, and everyone else as well. If you liked the video, hit the like button below. If you want to see more, be sure and subscribe. I've got a number of user questions to answer, so that's what we're going to be doing excuse me, in the next few videos. If you didn't like, please tell me why in the comments, and I will try and do better for you next time. Until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, saying it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.